Welcome back to the Barrel Talk Podcast. We are back with another episode. The second round has not been a disappointment. It has lived up to all the hype, in my opinion. I think this has been the best playoffs I've watched since probably the bubble. If I'm not mistaken, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this playoffs, because I think it's been nothing but cinema so far. But it's interesting because the playoffs are a tough time to kind of get content out, and everything's happening every day, every other day. There's another game, game 2, game 3 in a series, which game 2 could be one thing and game 3 could be an entire different conversation of its own. Kind of like what's happening with Denver and OKC. By the time I'm recording this would be game 2 for Boston and New York, and game 2 for OKC and Denver. But I thought it would be a good time because there's only one game on tomorrow, and it's Minnesota versus Golden State game 2 in Minnesota, and that's going to be the only game on tomorrow night. But there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack. We got some injuries. We got some 20-point comebacks. We got some interesting things. Is this team dead in the water at this point? We can start out with Warriors and Wolves, game 1. Talking about that going into this, we'll get the Curry injury out of the way. Looking at this, grade 1 hamstring strain. From everything I've seen, it is a very mild case. Reevaluated in 1 week, so it would be next Tuesday. It would be in the path of them playing game 5 because they play every other day for the series, I think until maybe game 6 or game 7 if I'm not mistaken. But it will put him on track to possibly playing game 5 at the soonest. But looking at this, he's obviously going to not play game 2. They have a home game on Saturday, and it feels like they haven't played at home in forever, especially going past the first round, playing 7 games against the Rockets. So they'll have 2 home games on the stand. Out of these 3 games, they could possibly be without Steph Curry. Looking at this injury is something he's never dealt with before, so they don't know how he's going to react. The hamstring is always an interesting injury to deal with, because this is basically player to player, how you're able to deal with it. It's going to be a different circumstance for Steph Curry, somebody who's never really dealt with this. I think they said this is the first strain of any sort that he's dealt with since 2018, 2019. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially with a player and how he plays and Steph Curry, how he's going to respond to this kind of injury. But very mild case from what the MRI said, which is a very good sign for Warriors fans. So looking at that, he's on track, it seems like, to possibly be ready by game 5. But I think it's going to be more telling of how this series goes and how long they can go without Steph Curry in the series. They stole game 1, which is something that changes the complete outlook on this injury. If they lost this game and he was injured, on top of that, they would have been dead in the water. But since they took game 1, they have 2 home games coming up, games 3 and 4. I'm looking at this situation with a little bit more optimism, especially for sure after them winning game 1. And if they're able to somehow snag another game going 2-2 back to Minnesota for game 5, maybe you get Steph in that game. Whole different series, right? So looking at that, them getting game 1 saved their season entirely, because looking at this, if they would have lost this game, like I said, they would have been a dead-in-the-water team. But since they have snagged that game, I'm having a little bit more hope for this Warriors team still, and maybe they can make something out of the series having 2 home games. So I'm going to always keep my hope in with this Warriors team, because anytime you're willing to count a Warriors team out, it seems like they always find a way to make the most of a situation and get out of it. Especially this goes back to when they played the Rockets. It looked like a lot of times the Rockets actually had their number and they were actually going to win, but the Warriors dealt with some injuries against the Rockets. I know Curry was out for a stretch against the Rockets one year. They were still able to win, but that's a whole different team compared to the Timberwolves. Getting off of the Steph Curry injury, we can dive into game 1, what happened. So, from my perspective, this was always going to be a way better matchup than what the Wolves just went through. They overpowered the Lakers with athleticism. The Lakers lacked so much size. The Lakers were just a bad defensive team in general. So you get explosive performances like you saw of Nasri in game 1, and the Minnesota Timberwolves offense was pretty much rolling until game 5, where they missed all those threes and were still able to walk out with a series win because of Rudy Gobert. So looking at that, they probably went into this thinking, we've been off, we're rested. Golden State just got out of a tough 7-game series with the Houston Rockets. 1 day of rest, travel, going from Houston to Minnesota for a game 1. We should be looking to take care of business. But I think the Minnesota Timberwolves overlooked the Golden State Warriors, took it for granted, thought that they were just going to come in here, kind of throw this game away and get ready for game 2. That's not what happened. To start this game, Minnesota got punched early. Steph Curry came out before the injury with 13 points, 3 of them being threes. Like, he was on pace to have a monster game. They came in with a rhythm. They came in knowing exactly how to match up with Minnesota, and Minnesota was caught off guard. They didn't know how to react, especially getting out of a series with the rest on top of that, where two teams playing two completely different styles. That's my thing with like the whole resting in the playoffs thing, because there's two different arguments. There's, I'd rather not rest, have the 5 days off, 4 days off going into a new series, compared to I'd rather just, like Golden State, 1 day in, 1 day back playing. Because in the NBA, they're so used to and accustomed to playing every other day, to where the rust definitely showed early on in this game. Golden State's defense was very locked in. The intensity was there. You could tell the intensity was there. You could tell that how much this game meant, especially after Curry went down. I feel like this team really locked in to realize we have a 12, 13-point lead. Even now Steph Curry is down and is in the locker room, this is still a game that we need to take advantage of and win. So looking at that, Minnesota got punched in the mouth early, nip and tuck, and then the Warriors went on like a 15-0 run, extended their lead, and they kind of never really looked back. Defensively, they really sat in a chair, made it tough on the Minnesota Timberwolves, especially coming out of a series where the Lakers' defense had no backside rim protection and the rotations were bad. So they're coming off of a series where it's swing, and Anthony Edwards is getting a drive. Naz Reid is getting a drive kick, DiVincenzo open three. Golden State wasn't having it. I know the Golden State Warriors are not a big team by any means, but there's not a team in the league, in my opinion, since the Jimmy Butler trade, their rotations are so on point, especially yesterday. The rotations were so on point. They were so locked in. They were the speed of the transition. Like, it would be swing, and it would be usually in a Lakers series, down to DiVincenzo wide open three. Then it turns into a late contest, which had missing the shot. And then Minnesota was kind of caught off guard. The threes weren't falling. Everything going to the lane was a lot tougher than the Lakers series, because the rotations for the Warriors was funneling everything to Draymond Green, who's phenomenal defensively. So looking at that, it was just a tough night out for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, do I expect the Timberwolves to shoot that bad again in the series? If I would have made this video a day ago, I would have said no. But I just watched the Boston Celtics do it, which we'll get to later on, in Game 2. The exact same thing happened to them. So, interested to see how Minnesota adjusts to this Golden State Warriors defense. And now, the offense for the Warriors is going to be in question, because I know in the fourth quarter, timely shots is what won the Warriors that game, because Minnesota finally was able to kind of make some kind of push and some kind of run to get back in the game. But the Warriors made enough timely shots. Jonathan Kuminga hit a big-time three. Gary Payton II, I feel like he is somebody who, especially the past, ever since he's really been with the Warriors, I feel like every year, every game, there's a big-time moment, a big-time game where he gets the swing in the corner, and he's just taking a big-time three, and he knocks it down. It happened multiple times in the Rockets series. He hit a timely three. Jimmy Butler got a floater. That was a timely bucket. And then after that, it seemed like the Minnesota Timberwolves ran out of a little bit of gas, trying to come back in that game. Golden State was still special defensively. Buddy Hield was huge. 0 for 7 in the first half, comes out in the second half like the game just started. He ends up with 24. Yes, he ends up with 24 and 8. Jimmy Butler ends up with 28 and 11. So looking at this, look at the rebounding numbers. 11 rebounds for Butler, 8 for Hield. Draymond has 8. Podziemski has 8. Gary Payton II has 5. Kevon Looney comes in and has 6. That was the turning point in this game for me. In the fourth quarter, the Minnesota Timberwolves got their feet up underneath them finally. They were making a push, making to get back in this game. And it came down to Steve Kerr and Kevon Looney back in the game in that fourth quarter. He was able to get 2 offensive rebounds, which led to points for the Golden State Warriors, which was huge. He might not be the high-flying rim protector, but he is somebody that's so solid for the Warriors and has been for a very, very long time, to where his presence on the court next to Draymond, next to Jimmy Butler, defensively, is huge, because he's able to kind of let Draymond and Jimmy Butler be the roller. And he only played 14 minutes tonight, but if they're going to keep themselves in the series these next 3 games, possibly without Steph, They're going to need him to play at least 20 to 25 because of what he can do and help Draymond and Jimmy Butler out defensively, because that's what they're going to have to hang their hat on these next 3 games. But I thought him getting subbed in that fourth quarter to kind of stop the bleeding, not from a scoring aspect, but to extra possessions for the Warriors. And, they're getting extra possessions. Somebody's open from 3, and it was Buddy Hield knocking it down. So, looking at this, I expect Minnesota to be better. I expect them to make adjustments. I'm interested to see the Rudy Gobert side of things, because when he's in the game and he's on the opposite block, and say you got Anthony Edwards driving down the lane from the slot, it's tough because you have such a smart defender in Draymond Green already on help side staying off of Rudy Gobert, because they're living with Rudy Gobert shooting or getting layups compared to Anthony Edwards getting going in the game. And then you have a roamer and Jimmy Butler that always has his hands everywhere, all over the place. You have somebody like Gary Payton II who has great hands all over the place. So it's interesting to see those passing lanes that were there in the Lakers series have not been there, especially just in this game 1. And I'm interested to see the play style, how the Timberwolves adjust to that, because Rudy Gobert, if he's not making an impact on the boards, which in this game, it didn't really happen. He had 11 rebounds, but I feel like Golden State, they out-rebounded them by like 10 or 11 total. If he's not being a big-time impact on the glass or scoring down low, which I just have a hard time seeing Draymond Green letting that happen with kind of the beef that they have. Draymond Green go foul out before Gobert get him 20. So looking at this, I think it's going to be interesting to see his role, but they have somebody like Naz Reid who can step in and make something happen. But it's going to be interesting. Game 2 is going to really tell me a lot. I know a lot of people, the main question is and concern is the Warriors' offense and how that's going to look going forward. I think it will be better than a lot of people think. Because you got to think the offense looked rough in this game at times, but you got to think they weren't expecting to lose Steph Curry after the first half. Like, they weren't expecting them to lose him and him to go down with an injury. So the rotations were kind of all wonky and messed up for the rest of the game. But I'm looking at this from this perspective of, you have Jimmy Butler. It sucks that it happened like this, but this is another reason why you brought Jimmy Butler here. Not to just take the pressure off of Steph when Steph is on the court, but to also be that guy. We've seen Jimmy Butler in the past, in my opinion, do more with less talent around him on his team, especially in Miami. So looking at this, I expect Jimmy Butler to be more aggressive. He took 20 shots in this game, but his playmaking, and he really does play second fiddle for sure to Steph Curry, and this is what the Warriors needed, a glue guy connecting piece, but they're going to need him to step it up offensively for sure. Buddy Hield, he's been amazing for them. If he can stay hot, stay consistent, he's playing with a ton of confidence, and for a shooter like him to be playing with a ton of confidence, and now his role is going to increase. I expect him to still be able, maybe not 8-9 threes in a game, but respectively, you can't leave him open. He's going to kind of take the Steph role in terms of running off screens and being kind of that gravitational, not to the Steph Curry level, of course, but he's going to take that kind of assignment, that role on the team to relieve some pressure and kind of space the floor. I expect Kevon Looney, like I said, to get more playing time to help anchor that defense with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. Podziemski's going to have to be better offensively. He had 8 rebounds as well, but only 3 points. He's going to have to be better. He's going to be more so the point guard, lead guard for this team now. Only 8 minutes for Moses Moody. You need some production out of Moses Moody for sure. But with what they've gotten, and Steve Kerr's not afraid to extend the rotation at all. You saw this at the start of the year when Golden State was like 11-2. They were routinely playing 10 to 12 guys, and it was working at the start of the year. And I think in stretches it can work, always having a fresh body on the court. Even somebody like Pat Spencer coming in and giving you some really, really solid minutes in those 11 minutes he played. Those are the things that can swing a game. Those are the things that can help keep the momentum going in Golden State's favor. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see the adjustments from both sides with Steve Kerr and not having Steph Curry. I wanted to see how their offense changes and kind of adapts, because if Steve Kerr is going to do one thing, he's going to adjust on the fly. You saw him do a great job of it during this game and extending the rotation. And what is Chris Finch going to do about Rudy Gobert's minutes? How are they going to adjust the Golden State Warriors defense compared to the previous series? How are they going to deal with kind of the slump that they're in from 3? Because we've seen Boston go through the same slump, and it can't happen 2 games in a row for the Minnesota Timberwolves, so I'm interested to see what happens with that. But Chris Finch, I got to give a lot of praise because he went on that post-game press conference, kind of called out Anthony Edwards a little bit. it's always good to see that accountability get taken with stars in this league, because we kind of saw a post-game press conference with Joe Mazzulla, which we'll get into, which was kind of interesting. But looking at this, Game 1, Warriors-Wolves, going into Game 2, I'm hoping to see some different adjustments from both sides. Even if, I think for the Warriors side of things, if you can find a way to have a big Jimmy Butler performance and snag maybe one of these 2 home games and go this series next Tuesday, which will be the week evaluation for Steph Curry, going in 2-2 to Game 5, I think you have a life for sure. But it's all about maybe you can snag one. Even if you don't, you got 3-1 going. So if you can get Steph Curry back, that would be kind of a revive for this team, even though they're down 3-1, which is going to be tough to do. But best case scenario, I think they get this 2-2 going back to the Minnesota for Game 5. Now getting into Pacers, Cavs. Man, where do I even start with this? This was... Man. So I made a video saying the Pacers, everybody... There are times where the underdog goes in, steals Game 1, like steals Game 1. But in the first game, I thought they went in there, punched them in the mouth from the jump, and took that game in Cleveland. Game 2, they stole this one. They stole this game, and like wasting kind of a Donovan Mitchell level performance, even though it was kind of maybe didn't have the same oomph like 48 points would. He went to the line a lot. He really did a good job in getting downhill, controlling the pace of the game. Jared Allen came in with 22 and 12. Max Strus had one of his best games of his career in the playoffs at 23, 4 and 8. Like, Ty Jerome didn't really give them nothing. The lights were really too bright. Sam Merrill started out hot, got them going, and got them a lead throughout the rest of the game. But the Pacers, man, that foot is pedal to the metal, man. Like, they do not stop no matter what. This team is now playing with extreme confidence because they straight up beat you in the first game and you gave them the second game. Now they're going home. With how that Indiana crowd is, it's going to be rocking. And mainly the thing is, everything around the Indiana Pacers has a team. It's kind of that team nobody takes seriously. You look at their road last year, Bucks had injuries, Knicks had injuries, and they lost in probably the most competitive series of a sweep you'll ever see against the Boston Celtics, because they really should have won 2 of those games. But now you're going into this year, Bucks had the same kind of injuries. Now Cleveland's dealing with injuries of their own. But what do you want them to do? Feel bad because they're playing the teams they're supposed to play, right? So I think of that, I don't even put that in the same context of them getting back to the conference finals possibly, because this Indiana Pacers team defensively has taken strides from last year, and they just look more poised in the moment this year. Tyrese Halliburton's been one of the most clutch players in all of basketball all year. But looking at this, the turnover by Strus leads to Halliburton going to the line, goes 1 for 2. The tip goes back to Halliburton. He dribbles it out, gets Ty Jerome, a good match for him one-on-one on the perimeter. Step back, gets his kind of Reggie Miller-esque moment, being on the Indiana Pacers. Games, the Cleveland Cavaliers to go 2-0 going back home. That was a demoralizing loss, right? Like, you could just feel, as soon as that shot went in, the crowd went to a hush. You could see the body language of the Cavs players just like everything just like... When you have a loss like this, it's one of those losses that could pack a team in for the year, right? And I think it might be a little too late, because the Garland injury is so weird to me. Because if you were watching and listening to the call on Sunday, which was Game 1 of this series, there was the notion was Garland was for sure 100% playing in Game 2. No doubt. That's what it made it seem like on the call. And then to see Garland, Hunter, and Mobley not play, super alarming. It's interesting to me to see how serious the toe thing is. I'm never one to say a player has to play through an injury, but with how Game 1 went, and you see Mobley's going to be out, you see Hunter's going to be out, like, to not even try to give it a go when the notion was 2 days prior that you were highly optimistic, you were 100% almost playing in Game 2 was very odd to me. So it makes me seem like, is the toe thing more significant than people think it is? Now they have 3 games off, and now they're in a situation in a hole, down 0-2 to a very confident. The Pacers might be the most dangerous team in the NBA with how they play, paired with the confidence they have now. because they already took 2 off your home court. They're trying to wrap you up and pack you up in Indiana. They're not trying to take this back to Cleveland. And that's the mindset that this Indiana Pacers team has with the way they play and the confidence that they are playing with now. It's a very dangerous combination. And now, say you get Garland, Mobley, and Hunter back all ready to play, somewhat healthy for Friday's game 3 in Indiana, it might be too little too late. Because if Garland didn't play in game 2, there's nothing that's going to make me think that the next couple of days it's all of a sudden going to be him being fully ready to go. Especially in a series like this where it's so up and down and he's a shifty guard with a toe injury. He's going in not 100% already. That's my mindset. Evan Mobley dealing with the ankle thing. Him and DeAndre Hunter went from like questionable to doubtful like really quick in the process on Tuesday. So it's interesting. The injuries have hurt the Cavs for sure, but this is one they should have had. This series should be 1-1 going to Indiana, and the Cavs melted this one away. Melted a great performance by Donovan Mitchell, a great performance by Jared Allen, where you had the game until the last minute. This is also what happens to the Milwaukee Bucks. Had the game till like last minute of the game, and the Pacers find a way to pull it out, but Pacers team playing with confidence, very dangerous. Even if the Cavs are fully healthy by Friday, this series might be over in 4. With a loss when you take a loss like this as a team in the playoffs, game winner on your home floor, this is the game that puts you out for the rest of the playoffs. I would not be shocked, even if the Cavs fully get loaded and ready to go for game 3 in a desperation game to keep their season alive, if they just can't get it done. With what this Indiana Pacers team has shown me against this Cleveland team, it already looked like a mismatch a little bit in game 1 with the pace and play and everything else like that. And if you're already coming a hobbled Garland, hobbled Mobley, hobbled DeAndre Hunter, with coming off of a loss like this, I could already see some of the Cavs players kind of packing this up for the year, right? And I expect the Pacers to put the foot to the metal and end the series in 4 games. And that's my prediction. I think the Pacers are going to sweep the Cavs in 4 games. I don't see this going back to Cleveland. This is a demoralizing loss. This is a loss that, not going to say gets people fired, but this is a loss that looms on a team for some time. A loss like this, where you have your star player have his best output of the playoffs so far, and it ain't enough because blunders down the stretch. So I expect the Pacers to take down the Cavs in 4 games. I think the series is over. Now getting to Boston. Well, I don't even know where to start with this. So game 1, right? Boston historically all year live and die by the 3. Most of the time they're living by the 3 for sure, especially in the regular season. This is the perfect formula for the regular season, right? Playoffs are different, especially when you have the Knicks, and the Boston was playing with fire and got burnt. That's exactly what they were doing. They already beat the Knicks 4 times throughout the regular season. They were going into game 1 thinking we are so mentally in this team's head because they were already designed to beat us. They haven't been able to beat us since they got Mikal Bridges, Karl-Anthony Towns, and everything they've done has not worked. So when they're up 20 late in the 3rd quarter in game 1, they played with their food. They played with fire and got burnt because the Knicks made a crazy run thanks to OG Anunoby, thanks to people like Deuce McBride, got themselves back in the ball game, and then when it came time to winning time, they give it to the best closer in the sport. And Boston has no answer for Jalen Brunson. This is a team with Drew Holiday, who is a well-known one of the best defenders to really ever play this game on ball. Another co-star who is widely known, has one of the other best perimeter defenders in all of basketball, and Derek White. And it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Jalen Brunson, in my opinion, is a top 3 guard in the game. When it comes to winning time, Boston has no answer for him. And then, when you are looking for Jason Tatum to show up, he hasn't. OG Anunoby has done a phenomenal job. I said before the series, OG Anunoby needs to be the primary defender, but I will give credit to where credit is due for Mikal Bridges not having it going either game offensively, but down the stretch, making the defensive plays to win the game, making the steal off Jaylen Brown, getting the steal/block off Jason Tatum to end the game too. But it's like, you can live and die by the 3, but man, when it matters, when you have to have it, you're going to die by it. And that's what Boston's doing. Looking at what Boston is doing, it's like the 4th quarter, or the back half of the 3rd started, and Josh Hart hit a corner 3, which is what sparked the Knicks on this run. So he hits that corner 3, and it's like ever since that moment, Boston forgot to go downhill. Jaylen Brown had his best game of the playoffs today, in my opinion. The best looking, because he's been up and down. I know he's been dealing with a knee thing even at the back half of the regular season. This was well known. But he was getting downhill at will. It looked like that same Jaylen Brown who was playing bully ball. Anytime he had a mismatch, it was going right to the lane. He was getting 2 feet in the paint every single possession. That's what he was doing first 3 quarters. Fourth quarter settled. Settled in the fourth quarter. Jason Tatum has been known for this, in my opinion, at this point, for settling. With all the skill that Jason Tatum has, he settles way too much. He'll hunt a Jalen Brunson mismatch, get the matchup they want, because nobody fights through screens anymore, and they just allow you to get the matchup you want, and then hope the guy you got on you is able to play good enough defense for a miss. He'll hunt the Jalen Brunson matchup and then settle for a sidestep 3. Instead of going downhill trying to get Jalen Brunson in foul trouble, he'll settle for a sidestep 3 when it's not warranted and not needed. Like, Derek White didn't have it down the stretch of this game. He still had a good game. Like, when it comes down to the winning plays, I know Kristaps Porzingis is dealing with like an unknown illness or something like that. He was able, like, he flipped the game when he came in, and then I'm interested to see what this illness actually is, because when he came in like the start of the third quarter, the game kind of flipped, and I was like, oh, Boston might run away with this. And then he comes out, and then he doesn't get back in the game. And then Josh Hart hits that 3. Deuce McBride gets 2 back-to-back buckets. And then all of a sudden, this run is sparked for New York. And then you have Mikal Bridges doing his thing in the fourth quarter, coming alive offensively, gets the stop late against Jason Tatum with the double team. Karl-Anthony Towns had a really good game, 21-17, because when Kristaps Porzingis is not in this game, it's a very different look for Karl-Anthony Towns, especially him defensively, because they'd rather live without Horford shooting the 3 rather than Kristaps Porzingis, if you know what I'm saying. So his role without not dealing with Kristaps Porzingis is completely different. Mitchell Robinson gave them some great minutes. I mean, his defense on Tatum in that last stretch, because they tried to run the same play that got them the first bucket to tie them the possession before that they had, where it was like a straight line drive, screen on Anunoby. Tatum goes downhill for once and gets by Mitchell Robinson for the dunk. They try to do that same play. Mitchell Robinson cuts him off this time and then funnels him kind of to Mikal Bridges. And on the help side, Mikal Bridges, they're able to get kind of like a triple team. Jason Tatum had his head down, was about to put up a terrible shot or try to pass it out to Jaylen Brown. Mikal Bridges picks off a steal. That's ball game. So, like, looking at this, it comes down to it because the Knicks clawed back in this game due to the heroics of their defense and Mikal Bridges and the shot selection. Shaq said it perfectly when they were breaking down the highlights after the game on TNT, was like, when you're looking at this game, and you're looking at the highlights and you're just watching the game, the Knicks got nothing but high-quality looks all fourth quarter. Nothing but high-quality looks. Meanwhile, Boston's trying to throw the haymaker down on the Knicks and end the game right there. They're trying to just put the killing blow when there was 9 minutes left in the ball game. Meanwhile, the Knicks just kept on clawing away high percentage shots. And this wasn't even the best Jalen Brunson game. You got 23 from Josh Hart, who he hit timely shots and timely rebounds on this run that the Knicks were on. So looking at this, now they're playing with fire. They play with fire. Now you're going to the Garden. And the Garden's going to be rocking. And I'm like, how much better do the Celtics need to play? They played a perfect game to beat the Knicks 2 times in 3/4 of a quarter. You're up 20 in the back end of the third quarter. How do you blow that game? Game 1, you get sent to OT and lose it. Game 2, you just lose in regulation. They had a timeout, didn't decide not to use it. In the last possession, I thought they should have used it. As soon as I saw Jason Tatum kind of losing the ball a little bit, we're calling timeout. We're getting something better than what they ended up getting. But that comes down to Joe Mazzulla, which his job's on the line in Game 3. I know he just came off winning a championship. He kind of got graced the job with the whole Ime Udoka situation. And I'm not saying Joe Mazzulla, I'm not calling for anybody's job, but he's playing for his job on Saturday in Game 3. Because with new ownership already stepping in, with how that's all looking, they're already talking. The season's not even over, and you're already hearing reports about them trying to shed cap. You lose like this when you're up 20 in Game 1 and Game 2 on your home court. Say you lose one of these, it's a must win. Every game's a must win now. If they're already talking about shedding cap and trading players, they have no problem with new ownership getting you up out of there, especially with how rich the coaching market is right now. You have a guy, Mike Malone out there, Mike Brown out there. There are coaches out there to replace you. And if anything like this is a coaching malfunction right here in games 1 and 2. Living and dying by the 3, completely neglecting, going to the paint, getting downhill, trying to get guys in foul trouble because you have two of the most. I know Jaylen Brown's dealing with the knee thing, but he did it for 3 quarters. But everybody wants to get 3 happy in the 4th quarter. And Tatum hasn't had a good game against the Knicks so far. That's thanks to OG Anunoby. He had 13.5 rebounds, 13 points, 5 assists, 14 rebounds. I was reading that wrong. But it's not going to be good enough, especially now you got this Knicks team going home after kind of like the drought you put them in because they couldn't get one off of you in the regular season. Now you're going back to the Garden. You haven't had Jason Tatum show up yet to this series offensively. Jaylen Brown's dealing with a knee thing. Kristaps Porzingis is dealing with this thing. It might get ugly quick. Because now they have confidence that they can just beat you. You had them down 20 twice on your home floor and you couldn't get it done. They are about to go to the Garden and think it is up. And they have a veteran coach in Tom Thibodeau that's not going to let them squash this situation they have up 2-0 and think, oh shit, sweet, we won 2-0, stole 2 games in Boston, we cool on our home floor. No, they're coming in with a killer mindset. Like Indiana, they're trying to get y'all and pack y'all up out of here quick. They're not trying to go back to Boston. They're trying to sweep you. So it's going to be very interesting to see the urgency that Boston plays with in Game 3. The do or die. This is a team that hasn't really had too much adversity, right? They had a breeze kind of getting to the finals last year. They had a breeze against the Dallas Mavericks just because it was a bad matchup against them. Like, this is the first adversity this team with Joe Mazzulla has really faced since winning the chip. So it's like, how are they going to adjust and what sense of urgency are they going to have in Game 3? If it's a close game, they have no answer for Jalen Brunson, and he's the clutch player of the year for a reason. So Boston squandered 2 opportunities. A collapse up 20 with basically just the 4th quarter to go. I know they say no lead is safe, but man, oh man. Boston has problems going on right now, and they are in trouble. Now getting on to Denver OKC. Kind of sucks because this is kind of like I'm recording this at night after the Denver game probably just ended at this point, but OKC was handling their business kind of. Denver looking to probably pack this game up. Look at the Game 3. They already got their job done. Took one in OKC. They really stole one with what transpired at the end of that game. The fouling up 3 ended up backfiring. I think, if I remember right, SGA gets a dunk because Jokic was out and they were going to foul to get Jokic back in the game. SGA gets a dunk, and then they kind of got bailed out because on the inbound, OKC fouled with like 11 seconds. Allows Jokic to get back in the game. Aaron Gordon with the second game winner of the playoffs, which is crazy. Just crazy. Jokic had his way with them in Game 1, but OKC, I knew that they were going to respond the way they did in Game 2 with how Game 1 went, but only thing I really have to say, 1-1, Michael Porter Jr., his shoulder thing seems to be more of a problem. I think the depth aspect is really going to come into play because as soon as Jokic or Jamal Murray or both go out the game, there just isn't really anything there for the Denver Nuggets offensively, especially against a defense in OKC. So that's the only thing I've really noticed so far. It's going to be interesting to see what adjustments Denver can do. Because there's times where it's just like OKC just picks their poison offensively, no matter how much they rotate. On Denver's side of things, OKC just finds the open man. They're unselfish as can be. They don't care who scores. They're just trying to win. That's what showed in Game 2. Everybody was eating in Game 2. At half, they put up like almost 80-something points. The whole starting five was in double figures. That's all you need to know. At halftime, the whole starting five was in double figures, and Shea had 18 on top of it. So that's all you need to know about Game 2. Game 1, thriller. Like a crazy, I can't even put it on anybody. It's just a crazy situation. It was on trying to foul up 3. And then Westbrook, there was memes going around about Westbrook just had that look in his eyes to try to dribble that ball and try to go get a bucket, but finds Aaron Gordon wide open on the wing, and he knocks it down like 2-game winners in the same playoffs, just weeks within each other. It's crazy. That's how good the playoffs have been. In my opinion, this has been the best playoffs since the bubble, in my opinion, because the bubble is just, God, I feel like the bubble always gets this kind of like asterisk and kind of looked down upon in a way. But man, like the hoops that were going on in the bubble were elite. Like every game seemed to be good. Like, if you just go back and look at some of the Denver Laker games, always good. The Heat Celtics games were always good. Even the round before that, you had Boston and Toronto, where Boston was up 3-1, I believe, and then they pushed it to 7. Toronto wins 2 games. They pushed it to 7. You had the Clippers blowing a 3-1 lead in the bubble. Then you had the series before that where you have Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell going 50 for 50 piece. Like, it was just crazy. And then you had on the other side, I want to believe, just trying to remember from the bubble, for examples, like you had Dame have a good, really solid, crazy performance against the Lakers in a game 1. The Lakers were kind of ran roughshod over there. Like, you had just some crazy individual performances, some individual games in the bubble. This is kind of giving me that same kind of vibe, but with the fans, so it's different. Like, man, this playoffs has delivered for sure. Going into game 3s for all these games, it's going to be very interesting to see the adjustments from the Wolves and Warriors side of things, because now they're going into without Steph Curry. How will the Wolves bounce back in game 2 tomorrow night? And going off without Steph Curry, how are they going to adjust? Boston has to figure it out. They're playing for their lives. Same with Cleveland. 2 of the top 3 teams in all of basketball, other than OKC, fighting for their playoff lives in a game 3 in the second round against 2 teams where they smell blood in the water. It's going to be very, very interesting. And then you have 1-1 for OKC and Denver, going to Denver, see how that looks and see if Denver can kind of bounce back off this performance that they had in game 2 and kind of get back to some of the things that worked for them in game 1. But that is all I have for this episode, talking about the playoffs. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Barrel Talk Podcast. Hope to see you tune in to future episodes.